Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Courtney if you don't know me already, and on my channel I react to all things America but other stuff as well. So if you want to get New Zealanders perspective, definitely hit that subscribe button down below. I'm really happy you're here today. I'm really happy you clicked into today's video. In today's video we have a guaranteed video request from Trey. Thank you so much to Trey for recommending another fantastic looking video, guys. This one is called The Truth About the Titanic, a Cold War mission kept secret until 2018. And I can assure you, I have no idea what this video is about to be about. I assume it's about the Titanic, but then again, I don't know if the Titanic is a code word for something else. You know what I mean? You can never be too sure. So, yeah, let's get into the video. Let me know what you guys think down below. Yeah, let's get into it.
The photo is one of the most iconic of the 20th century. The date is April 16th, 1912, and it shows young newspaper boy Ned Parfitt holding the banner headline of that day's London Evening News, which reads, "Titanic disaster, great loss of life." The sinking of the Titanic in the frigid North Atlantic on April 15th, 1912, was undoubtedly the most famous shipping tragedy of all time. More than 1,500 of the estimated 2,224 passengers and crew on board perished in the sinking.
Wow.
The unthinkable had happened.
It's so bad.
A famously unsinkable ship had sunk. The exact location of the shipwreck remained a maritime mystery for decades after that. That was until finally, after many failed attempts to find the wreck by other expeditions, a Franco-American team led by Robert Ballard succeeded in locating where the famous ship had come to rest. It was at over 12,000 feet below the surface and had only been made possible with the help of remote submersibles. It was assumed that the incredible discovery of the Titanic wreckage in 1985 by Robert Ballard and his expedition team had been a purely scientific effort. However, this was not actually the case. A lot more than just the location of the Titanic shipwreck was at stake for this expedition. And it turns out, the US Navy had actually launched the mission with a top-secret objective in mind. The truth. The truth regarding the 1985 expedition that found the Titanic finally emerged in 2018. Declassified information meant that Robert Ballard could reveal that the team had in fact been part of a secret US military mission to investigate 2 sunken nuclear submarines at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Ballard would state, "They did not want the world to know that, so I had to have a cover story." Back in the 1980s, Ballard was a commander in the US Navy and a scientist at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution in Massachusetts. Ballard had been building an underwater research vessel to realize his lifelong dream of finding the Titanic. It was his obsession. However, Ballard was unable to procure adequate funding for the project, so he approached the US Navy for help. Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Submarine Warfare Ronald Thunman was receptive, but a bargain was struck. The Navy would offer Ballard the funding and opportunity to search for the Titanic, but on one critical condition. He would have to first explore the wrecks of the USS Thresher and the USS Scorpion. The USS Thresher and USS Scorpion. The Thresher and Scorpion were 2 American nuclear subs that sank in the 1960s under mysterious circumstances. Ballard noted that the US Navy knew precisely where the subs were located. However, there was much interest in the nuclear weapons that were on the Scorpion at the time it sank. The Navy also wanted to investigate the impact of the nuclear reactors on the marine environment. Another reason the American military wanted to investigate the 2 sunken submarines was to analyze whether their sinking had been possibly due to any foul play by an enemy state, namely the Soviet Union. But the exploration of the 2 subs needed to be done as quietly as possible. The US Navy had its reasons. This was still during the Cold War, after all. The Navy wanted to ensure that the investigation of the 2 nuclear submarines be done without ever having the Soviets following the expedition or even knowing about it. Hence the need to cover up the real intent of the team by very publicly stating that its sole purpose was to locate the Titanic wreck. That's crazy. Thunman would later speak about his meeting with Ballard and recall how Ballard had told him, quote, "All my life I've wanted to go find the Titanic." Thunman was taken aback by Ballard's candid reason for approaching the Navy for funding. He responded to Ballard by saying, quote, "Come on, this is a serious, top-secret operation. Find the Titanic? That's crazy." It was actually Ballard himself who suggested the cover story, because he believed the Titanic wreck site was located somewhere between the Thresher and Scorpion submarines. Ballard would recall how he was the one who suggested to Thunman that the Navy should tell the world that they'd be looking for the Titanic. Thunman thought that Ballard's cover story idea was crazy, but he had this to say to the ambitious oceanographer and explorer: "If you do your mission, I don't care what you do with the rest of your time." In Ballard's opinion, it was a great cover story since the media were entirely oblivious to the covert nature of the expedition. That, in turn, meant the Soviets also remained in the dark regarding what the Ballard expedition was getting up to in the depths of the Atlantic Ocean off Newfoundland. The Navy funding and technical expertise included that for the remotely operated vehicle, or ROV, which was essential for the underwater expedition. The Titanic wreck, as well as those of the two nuclear subs, were located too far underwater for a human diver to explore them. Instead, the remotely operated vessel was needed to travel so deep underwater and take the necessary footage. The cutting-edge underwater equipment was developed at the Deep Submergence Laboratory at Woods Hole, thanks to funds granted by the Office of Naval Research. Partnering with Ballard as the co-head of the expedition was Dr. Jean-Louis Michel, Director of Engineering and Technology for IFREMER, or the French Research Institute for Exploitation of the Sea, based in Toulon, France. Ballard would always insist that the expedition was a joint achievement with the French. Michel would later state that the French team's agreement was with Ballard directly, not with the institution at Woods Hole or the U.S. Navy. Michel would recall how the partnership with Ballard commenced in late 1983 and went through several stages. The French had to determine the feasibility of the project. IFREMER decided to do a historical study, a computer study, an operational study, and a weather study regarding the expedition's feasibility. By 1984, Michel told Ballard that the French were ready to commit. What's interesting is that once Ballard and Michel's expedition team had finished exploring the two sunken nuclear submarines, they had just 12 days left in the trip to search for and locate the Titanic.
And that's what they wanted to
12
do
days.
in the first place. 12
Ballard would
days.
reveal how he pondered over every detail of what he knew about the Titanic, including where witnesses and maritime experts thought the ship sank, and where the ship's lifeboats were found. He would state how his gut told him that the wreck wasn't located where everyone thought it was. His strategy was not to seek out the Titanic wreckage itself, but to instead try and accurately calculate its debris field. Ballard compared it to being akin to wanting to photograph a deer hiding in the winter. One wouldn't search for the deer itself in winter, but rather look for its footprints and follow its movements that way. The wreckage was found on the 8th day of the Ballard-Michel expedition search of the ocean for it. At 2 a.m. on September 1st, 1985, Ballard, Michel, and several crew members watched as the robotic submersible delivered images of the Titanic's boiler. It was the first anyone had seen of the famous cruise ship in over 75 years.
Oh my
Quote,
goodness.
"We were at the very spot Titanic sank. We were there," Ballard would recall. The expedition crew would also note how the night the Titanic was discovered was eerily similar to the night it sank. The ocean was incredibly calm, and the sky was moonless. Ballard would go on to say how incredibly excited he and his team were when they found the Titanic. He would reminisce by stating, quote, "We naturally were very excited because it was a tough job. We got it, scoring the winning goal at the buzzer. However, the mood soon turned quite somber as the implications of the Titanic tragedy quickly set in after the discovery had been made." Ballard would recall, quote, "We realized we were dancing on someone's grave, and we were embarrassed. The mood, it was like someone took a wall switch and went click. We became sober, calm, respectful. And we made a promise to never take anything from that ship, and to treat it with great respect."
Oh my gosh.
Ballard would make an analogy by stating, quote, "You don't go to Gettysburg with a shovel," which was a reference to the immense battle that occurred in Gettysburg between Union and Confederate forces in July 1863 at the height of the American Civil War, in which thousands of men lost their lives. In the end, the expedition was a win-win for the U.S. Navy and for the man whose ambition was to locate the wreck of an old luxury ship. Ironically, in an expedition that was a covert operation by the American Navy to dupe the Soviets, the date on which the Titanic wreck was found, September 1st, was a day being celebrated as the National Day of Knowledge in the USSR. It was just another irony of the Cold War, and just another footnote to the many footnotes that comprise the never-ending mystique of that greatest ocean tragedy of all, the sinking of the Titanic.
Wow. Well, I can definitely say that I had no idea about that, honestly. I don't even think I knew who discovered the Titanic. But this is very, very interesting. At first, I thought the deal that they did strike at the start, I thought they were gonna say, if we fund your project to find the Titanic, we want the rights to your technology. I thought that's what they were gonna do. But definitely took me off guard when they said, find our submarines. And they did find them. And then they had 12 days to find the Titanic. Incredible. Incredible, honey. But it's pretty sad that once the location was leaked, that people went out there and started taking a lot of the stuff from the ship. And it was only protected from 2012. You would have thought they would have, you know, hurried that process to make sure the wreck is protected. 2012, and it was found, what, in 1985. So the time from 1985 to 2012, that's many years, right? And if there's no rule against people going down there, then people are probably going to be kind of curious, selfish, whatever word you want to say, and head down there and see what they can find. It seems to all work out, right? One group of people wanted this and the US Navy wanted that, and they came together and made the perfect deal. And the way that they covered that up as well was obviously crucial to the mission, right? Very crucial. I'm surprised that the Soviet Union fell for it, you know? I guess it just wouldn't have been on their radar. They just would have no idea. They would have just thought it was this private company going out to find the Titanic, and it was nothing, you know, more than that. Obviously, Titanic is very famous. There's a lot of people interested, you know, want to find the Titanic, and I guess the Soviet Union just thought it was nothing more than that. I mean, why would they second guess that, you know? If it didn't have the US Navy's name on it, they wouldn't care. You know, it's no problem to them type thing, you know? So very, very smart collaboration. But definitely let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section here. There's a lot of people saying there's some pictures that are misleading in this short documentary, such as the diver at the bottom of the ocean in the Titanic. Apparently that's not quite right. I think the creator of this video was just trying to, you know, give a visualization image for us to kind of imagine, but it's not actual real images, some of these. But I think that's mostly what people are complaining about on this video. And apparently the UK, I've got another little conspiracy here. Apparently the UK had found the shipwreck already, but they didn't want to share their military equipment. Like they didn't want to let other countries know that they had that technology in their military, so they kept it on the down low. But apparently there's actually photos of the Titanic on a satellite or something, and apparently this man knew about those satellite images. But that's just the comment on YouTube, so you never know. Obviously, you gotta take everything you see on the internet with a grain of salt, even the videos you watch, you know? I have learnt that the hard way. Well, not the hard way, but I've just learnt that time and time again. And I told myself, it was probably like a year ago, I was like, it was probably like, actually not even that long ago, probably 8 months ago. I was like, you know what, I'm not going to see something on the internet and just assume it's fake. Even if it feeds into my own narrative, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not, because there's so much fake information on the internet, and it looks so convincing, but you just never know until you do your own research. So let me know what you guys thought about this video. If you've got anything to add, definitely write a comment down below. I'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video, guys. I really appreciate you guys for being here. If you do have a video recommendation, do head over to my website, which I will link down below, and you can make video recommendations on there. And apart from that, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye guys.